Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, we're going to be looking at Lit Llama, which is put together by the Lightning AI team. This is essentially a open source framework for the Llama-style models. It is being trained by a number of groups, and some of the weights are actually being released by the OpenLLaMA project as entirely Apache 2.0 weights, which is commercially compatible. Very, very good. Okay, so the idea of Lit Llama is to be a fully independent, pre-training, fine-tuning inference code source. So the reason this is good is that anything that uses the GPL license, which is what the original Llama code was produced under, has to maintain that GPL license. So the Apache 2.0 license just makes this better and easier to integrate into the into other projects. Now, there are arguments to be made on both sides of this, but for right now, the idea is that the Apache 2.0 license is a bit more permissive, and so this is a win if you're looking to commercially use something like Llama in your business or for your business. Lit Llama is pretty awesome. Number one, I think this is the best repository to actually learn about what these models are doing. So, similar to Nano GPT, which heavily inspires Lit Llama, to be clear, it's the idea that this code is very lightweight, very minimal. And so it's if you're interested in the technical side of things, so how does this work? How do they train these kinds of things? What actual code is happening under the hood? I think this is probably the best repository to do that. Is it, again, I feel like I said this in every video, is this the most powerful thing in the world? Of course not. I mean, to be clear, this isn't like a model even, right? This is just how we can train these models. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Chris, this is dope. We have this Lit Llama, but I mean, it's a framework. It doesn't have weights, right? Well, not to fear, the OpenLLaMA project is also producing Apache 2 compatible weights. They're using EasyLM framework, which is a JAX framework. But the idea here is that, you, with these two combined, right, we're able to fine tune downstream tasks with Lit Llama, and they're absolutely 100% untouchably, Apache 2 all the way down. And that's kind of a huge deal. So we don't have to, quote unquote, bootleg weights anymore. The OpenLM team is releasing all of those weights for us to use. We don't have to worry about the original Llama code because, again, Lit Llama has come up with a solution that this is entirely separate and it's covered under Apache 2.0. Basically, we're kind of getting towards this idea of actually being able to leverage Llama. When I say actually here, what I mean is that previous to these Apache 2.0 weights and the same framework, every time you're using Llama, if you were doing due diligence, they are research weights, so they can't be used for commercial purposes, and the framework itself is locked into a specific license. Now, we're able to progress forward with better licensing for commercial uses, and that's pretty hype. Why did they make Lit Llama? Well, number one, it's simple, single file implementation without boilerplate. This is probably my favorite part. It's beautiful, right? It's just a good, solid implementation of how you can train these things. That's it. No bells and whistles. That's it. Just how do we train this? And that's why I think it's such a good learning repository, right? This, if you want to understand how the nuts and bolts of this training process works, right? How was Llama created? Lit Llama is an excellent resource, similar to Nano GPT, right? Nano GPT is an excellent learning resource. Lit Llama is the same thing. It is correct, which just basically means that, yep, it's close to the original model. It's optimized, so it has a number of precision options and quantization options, so you'll love to see that. And open source, truly, right? Really it is. It's not open source with strings attached. It is open source. And using this thing is beyond straightforward. So first of all, I want to show you the results here. So I've fine-tuned on the Dolly 15K dataset. And, we have this instruct-tune model. I've asked it, why is dancing so much fun, right? And we have the answer here. Dancing provides many benefits, including allows you to relieve stress and have more fun, improves your mood and happiness, improves your cognitive functioning and thinking skills, builds confidence, and relieves stress. So, there you go. You heard it from this instruct-tune Lit Llama model. And then I ask it, of course I have to, I'm obliged to. I asked it to the Fibonacci number. It actually failed this task. So it's not quite right. So in order to make it more right, we have to hit them up with the old return 1, and then this has got to be return 0 actually. And then if we run this now, we'll get the correct implementation. So again, this is not necessarily the strongest model ever. However, they are planning to release these checkpoints as they continue to train. They do want to train on the entire RedPajama dataset, and this is just the 400 billion token preview. Why am I telling you about yet another not as good as GPT model? Well, aside from the fact that this thing, again, is permissively licensed, aside from the fact that I actually just think this is a great learning resource if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of LLMs, how they're trained. I think this is a great way to do that. But it's because it's ridiculously straightforward to use. So let's look at the first, piece that you'll need. Number one, we just got to point it at our drive. We do this so that it can persist the weights during the training in case your session crashes or anything happens. You'll have your most recent checkpoint. This is going to require a 40 gigabyte GPU. Shouldn't be any surprise. You will need Colab Pro for this. And the training did take about, probably it was 8 hours. All that's left to do now is we clone the repo and then we CD into it. We go ahead and install our requirements. Once our requirements are installed, we have to install an additional dependency, which is get LFS. This is so we can have the big checkpoints from Hugging Face from OpenLM. Then we have to convert those checkpoints into compatible checkpoints for the Lit Llama framework. So we can do that here. Very straightforward. They provide a helper function that does it, and it works like a charm. Now we have to prepare Dolly. So because we're going to use the Dolly 15K dataset, we want to use this prepare Dolly. This is going to prepare the dataset for use and save it in an expected location. The only thing that you really have to do extra here when you're using Dolly is in the fine-tune section in the LoRA.py file, you need to make sure that this max sequence length is equal to 1028, since that's the max sequence length in the Dolly 15K dataset. If you use 256, it will throw an error. You could technically also chunk the Dolly dataset smaller, but I don't think we want to do that as we're going to lose some context. Once you've done that, and I'm not joking, right? What have we done so far? We've cloned a repo. We mounted the drive. We cloned a repo. We installed some requirements. We got a dependency, one additional dependency. We cloned some weights. We converted some weights, and we prepared a data set, right? This has not been a lot of code, right? All this is basically just calling helper functions. And then this last line, this is the fine tune. This is the amount of code you have to do for the fine tune, right? This is the power of Lit Llama. It is so easily parsable, right? Sure, it's not like this is the least complex code ever. It's fairly complex, right? You have to have a decent background in machine learning to understand really what's happening. But to use it is not complex, right? And that is, again, we're moving more and more towards this idea of making these models and this training and everything like that super accessible, even to people who don't have a ton of experience using APIs. This one doesn't even use any APIs, right? We're just using these, just run these helper functions in the right order, and you'll have a fine-tuned model at the end of it. And an instruct-tune model on a 15,000 row data set, right? I mean, this is just fantastic. Pre-training is just as easy. Obviously, the data is going to be a little bit different, but Lit Llama to me kind of strikes that balance of where I think the most value can be gained in terms of learning, right? It's super straightforward to use, even if you don't have a ton of Python knowledge, right? Again, we're just running these Python files. It's kind of doing all the work for us. But if you get into it, right? So let's go into fine-tuning with LoRA. This is their how-to page, right? And basically it just says, run those pieces of code in order. You'll also see that it gives us this idea to make your own instruction data set, which is huge, by the way. So if you wanted to do something custom, it's as easy as just making a JSON file in which each row holds one instruction response pair. It gives you the template, you know? It's incredible. It's like you make a JSON-L file of the instructions you want, and then you let her rip. Huge. You have like the tiniest bit of overhead, so you have to make your own prepared data script. It doesn't really... The lift is not very hard. Basically, it's just pointing it at the right JSON-L file, and then you can run that. So Lit Llama has a number of ways to fine-tune. It's got your traditional adapter. It has, full fine-tune, and then it has LoRA. So obviously, myself personally, I'm going to use the LoRA version. I'm kind of a big LoRA fan. Okay, so here we are in the LoRA fine-tuning Python file, and I just want to highlight a few things. Number one, this is all written in English. I mean, literally it's Python, but it's readable Python, right? So it's something that you can just read and it's going to kind of explain itself, right? So we have our classic hyperparameters. You always have these hyperparameters, right? This looks extraordinarily similar to the Hugging Face Transformers trainer. I'm sure that's on purpose. We have methods such as mark only LoRA as trainable. In our actual training function, this is just a classic training loop. It is quite literally just a training loop. Here is the for loop that trains the entire thing. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, right? Even if you don't love Python, even if you are like, I don't know, man, LLMs are pretty spooky. So you've got some... Let's say you have some Python experience, but you're intimidated by LLMs. Lit Llama is a fantastic resource because it really demystifies a lot of what's going on. It really puts it into very plain, quote unquote, English. Obviously, it's written in Python, but it's written with good variable names. It's written with good function names. So it's fairly readable, right? Even if you don't have experience with the Lightning library, you're going to be able to parse this code. You're going to be able to understand what's happening and follow along. And I think this is really something that you can use to take your knowledge to the next level, right? It's just another step towards open source being a fantastic resource for people. Like I said, this was like 6 cells worth of code, and one of them wasn't technically necessary. Just wanted it because I'm doing this in Colab, just so I can share the Colab with you guys, and then you can instruct-tune a llama-based model, because why not, right? I mean, so it cost probably a total of like $13, I think, and I just have it now. I mean, what more can you ask, right? This is the idea here, right? If you enjoyed the video, think about clicking the like button or the subscribe button, and otherwise, I'm going to see you guys in the next one. I just want to be clear. The field right now is insane, right? Absolutely insane. It's going at such a clip. I think tools like Lit Llama are some of the most important tools because they can help us all understand what's really happening when we're training these things. What's actually going on under the hood, right? And knowing that is going to enable you to do such powerful things. Even if you never use this script to actually fine-tune, right? It's just like, it's incredible. It's beyond incredible. In any case, thanks so much for watching the video. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.